Hey guys, Melody Fletcher here, and I thought today it would be really great for you to hear from one of my clients directly, about her story and what she experienced by learning the information the way that I teach it about reality creation and the law of attraction and how that has, changed her life and her outlook. And I did include a little bit of our conversation at the end because I just thought it was so great and really valuable, and it made the video a little bit longer, and I hope that that's okay with you. But I just thought it was really valuable, and it might give you a nice little glimpse into my relationship with my clients, and also some more teaching, of course. So let you get right into it. But before I do, I just want to remind you that we have a live Q&A call that is open to all. It is a Q&A and coaching call where you can ask me whatever you want. You can get a glimpse of what it's like to work with me. And that is tomorrow. And if you're watching this video in real time, it's tomorrow, Friday the 14th. I was going to say Friday the 13th, Friday the 14th of September 2018. But if you're watching in the future at some point, then maybe I'll have another Q&A. Click on the link, see what happens. The link is down below if you want to sign up for that. Otherwise, enjoy.
Well, I definitely remember when I first found you online, and what I had been doing was I was learning a little bit about law of attraction through various other teachers online, and I had listened to some Abraham Hicks and read some other things that really kind of piqued my interest, but didn't resonate with me quite in the way that I felt like there was some real nuggets of information would be very helpful to me, but I wasn't feeling that like real resonance with the teachers so much. I think Abraham was probably the closest, but still it felt a little, I think it was the male energy of it. It was probably a little bit hard for me to relate to quite as much. And so I was online looking for law of attraction, just kind of Googling that, and I ran across your blog. And as soon as I started reading it, I felt such a resonance with your sense of humor, and the things you were saying were so direct, and it was so easy for me to kind of get in that groove of understanding what you were saying and how it related to me personally, that I instantly I just loved your blog. I just loved what you would write. It made me laugh, but yet it also taught me a lot. And so then I started buying your coaching calls that you have for sale, that you had, people would call in and you would coach for them. And I bought a lot of those. And then it wasn't long after that when I started deciding that I really wanted to work with you personally. And so I got in contact with you, and that was just an amazing thing that happened for me, because I wasn't even sure if you would have any space for me in your schedule, because I figured you were probably pretty busy. And so it to me, it felt like a manifestation of like, wow, the universe is lining up for us to work together. And it was so amazing because I was in a place where I really needed guidance for what was going on. And you were like the perfect teacher for me at the time when I needed you the most. So, well, when I first started working with you, there was a lot of things going on in my life that were pretty, there's a lot of, I won't say negative, but there was a lot of unwanted things happening in my life at that time. And I was kind of feeling like, I almost had that victim mentality. I won't say completely, but I felt like, these things were happening and I didn't have any control over this. And I was just trying to get in a position where I felt less powerless. And so I think finding you and your kind of no BS attitude of like, okay, well, this is something that's happening for a reason, and it's here to help you. And you're manifesting this for a reason. It's not just bad things heaping on to you from the universe that you have, you know what I mean? You're not a victim. And I like the fact that you don't really sugarcoat things. You just tell me like it is. I don't need someone to be protective of my feelings. I want to know what's happening, and then I can go forward with that. And you're never unkind, but you don't beat around the bush either, which I personally really appreciate. So, you always are saying things in a way that help me, and don't, you don't really give me an out of, making excuses or anything like that, which is what I like. And, I don't need someone to beat me up, but I also need someone to tell me, hey, you know, you got yourself into this position because of doing this, and here's how we can get you out. And this is how we can create a better result for you. And here's how you can attract things that you want to attract. And I remember, you know, one of the things that happened in the very, very early, might have been the very first time I talked to you on a coaching call was, I'll just never forget this. And it's always been a great lesson for me. I always go back to this. So I told you that I needed a new car. My car was getting old and I did not know how I was going to pay for that. And I was stressed about it because I really needed a new car. And I remember you said to me, among a lot of other things, but you said, okay, I want you to look out your window or wherever you are. You think that that car is going to be parked when you get it. And I want you to envision the car in your driveway. And so I did, and I happened to be in a position where I could look right out at my driveway. And so I imagined this white car sitting out in front of my garage, and and you said, you know, imagine how you'll feel that it's there. It was really easy to acquire it. It was not a stressful thing. And so I did that. And I just, and you told me, you know, don't think about how you're going to get it. Just think about it's there and it feels really good to have it. And, you know, then you don't get into that whole anxiety of how am I going to come up with the money. And so I did that. And within 2 weeks, I had that car. And it was the easiest car I ever bought. I didn't have to borrow any money. The money just showed up when I needed it. And I walked in and I paid cash. And I had it in like 2 hours. And the car was sitting in my driveway. And I'm looking out the window and I'm thinking, wow, it's just like the call when you told me, imagine this. And that's what I did. And that's what happened. Exactly the way you said. And I felt exactly the way I imagined feeling when I looked at it. And so that was such a great lesson for me because I realized how visualization is so powerful and and you taught me right with that very, very simple, but very, very, very effective lesson that, you know, how you feel when your visualization's happening makes such a big difference, you know? And so, and I, you know, I go back to that when I start thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I think about the car. I don't have to figure out every detail. Just imagine how it's going to be when it's here, what I need, you know? So that was a really just amazing example. And I've done it over and over again. And you taught me that trick and I'm so grateful. But it was so like that whole cause and effect that happened so quickly between me looking out the window and picturing it there. And then like 2 weeks later, there it was. Just exactly like I pictured it. That was so like, wow, you know, it just hit me so strongly like, oh, this stuff really works, you know? And that was amazing to me because I believed it, but then to see that physical representation of it was such a good validation of that, you know? Where I am now compared to where I was when I started working with you, it's almost difficult to say because it's so incredibly different. My life, I mean, I'm almost like a completely different person, honestly. I mean, so when I started working with you, I was in a position, I was in a very unhappy position in my life. I was feeling trapped where I was. I didn't know how to get out of a situation. I felt guilty. I felt like a lot of things were being heaped on me that I didn't want. They were unwanted things that I couldn't control. And very shortly after starting to work with you, I started to realize that I have so much more power in my situation. And I started to kind of work with that instead of fighting everything so much and started to feel good about things that I had been feeling really bad about. And by doing that, it allowed for a lot of much more positive things to enter into my life. And you taught me another thing that was really helpful, which is if you feel bad about something that's happening in your life, the first thing you need to do is stop feeling bad about it. Because you can't get anything better if you're in this negative mindset where you're pushing against something that's happening. If you find a way to feel okay with what's going on, then it's much easier to attract better things. And I started to work with that idea. And in doing so, my life has pretty radically changed over the last 5 years that we've been working together. Or has it been longer? I guess it's probably been longer than that now, 6 years maybe. At any rate, when I think about how my life is now compared to when I started working with you, I have such an easier time manifesting all kinds of positive things. And I have this, and my friends know it, and my boyfriend knows it. And my whole thing is I'm really good at attracting money. I love money. Money loves me. And that's something that is, I don't think I ever would have had the kind of courage to even say that before, let alone believe it. And now I know there's so many things that I can make happen in my life that are really positive. And so the stuff that we work on now is so much more fine tuning, I would say, than the big, you know, change of attitude and change of where I was going before. Now I'm pretty much on the path, and there's just a little things that happen along the way that when we talk, you know, you kind of give me an outside perspective of, okay, well, you know, this is happening here for this reason and this is happening for that reason. And it's more like really guiding me much closer to the path of where I always want to be. Whereas before I would do wild swings, kind of, here I am where I want to be. Oh, now I'm over here doing something not quite in alignment with what I want, you know? And so you really taught me over the years to get closer and closer to that, you know, staying on that path of where I want to go. And I've also learned from working with you, which is an amazing thing, is that those goals that I thought were so critical, I realized they're just way stations along the path. And so I'm learning to accept that I can have these big goals, but, you know, ultimately, I don't know where it's all going to end up. And I feel really actually excited about that idea rather than scared by it. So, you know, the things that are going to come up for me, the universe presents me with opportunities and ideas. And now I can go, oh, this could be something really great that I want to go for. Where in the past, it felt like, oh no, that's a distraction. I have to stick to this thing. I have to stick to this thing. And it's like, well, I can still do that thing. But then there's going to be another mountain or another ocean I want to cross or whatever down the road. And it's all really exciting, you know? So it's not like, oh, you get this job and then you're there. And I'm starting to realize, you know, or you get this much money and then you're there. That stuff is all fun, but that's not really what I'm here for, you know? So it's been a really great journey with you. I gotta say, you're just so inspirational. When you talk about, you know, yourself shining through, and I think that's so true. And what it means for me is, I would say it comes down to authenticity. I think I am so much more authentically who I am. And I think when I met you, I was much more, feeling like I couldn't really embrace who I was because I would not be accepted, or, you know, somehow that was going to be detrimental to my career, my family life, my friends. And so, you know, I kind of put myself in a box a lot. In fact, I think I did that quite often. And most of the time, really. And I think meeting you at that time in my life when so much was happening was so perfect, because I was kind of forced to deal with a lot of crap at one time. And by doing that, I realized I can't stuff myself back in that box again. I just can't do it. You know, I mean, I'm just too in the, and the other thing I love about, you know, all of your teaching, not just talking to you personally, but, you know, reading your blog posts and your videos, is the idea of our higher selves, that part of us that's up here. And I realized, I think the more that I become connected to that, the bigger I get, the more expansive my consciousness is, the harder it is to kind of pull myself in and make myself small, and which I don't want to do anyway. So it's really great because it's kind of forced me to be part of that bigger part of who I am, and walk around that way, not just when I'm meditating or something, you know? I mean, I'm letting myself be attached to that larger consciousness on a way more regular basis, you know? And it's like, oh, well, people don't like it. Oh, well, there's like the layers of your teaching is so, like, wherever you're at, because when I first started, you know, working with you, I was really at a point of, I just need some basics. Like, how do I get through my day? How do I, you know, not worry about, you know, how I'm going to get a new car, how I'm going to get out of this, you know, this emotional situation that I'm not happy with. How do I deal with this financial situation? And then, as you kind of work through that really basically simple stuff, it seems huge when you're in the middle of it, but when you figure it out, it's not that bad. And then when you get through that, then you start realizing, wow, there's a whole nother level to where your teaching is that you can delve into. And it's so rewarding. I mean, it's so like, oh gosh, it feels so good to start thinking about beyond myself, because, our ego hates to admit this, but, we're pretty small, we got this little tiny realm, and it's so much more fun to try thinking and getting into the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you were so open to talking about that and all of your experiences, and it made it okay for me to start, like, okay, I'm going to go and I would do classes and all kinds of stuff that I never probably would have had the courage to do if I didn't have you there as an example of, all of your adventures and experiences with that, so it's been really amazing. I mean, I like the fact that you work on several levels, and whatever level somebody comes to you at where they want to deal, there's something for them there, and then it doesn't get boring, because once you go, because some teachers, I mean, they just have their little thing that they teach, and once you learn that, you're done, and so I have never felt like I've reached the edge of where you're at as far as what you're able to share, Really, I think the foundation is so important, like you were saying, because if you don't understand how it works, you're not going to be able to believe that it's possible. And if you don't believe it's possible, it isn't going to happen.
Exactly.
So you have to really understand it. And I kind of skipped that part, but of course I got it, obviously, because I made it happen.
Yeah.
And it was so, and there was a number of things that you had me do as far as visualizations go that I think were super helpful for me, because I'm a very visual person. So it was really like you kind of tapped into that right away, what worked for me really well. And perhaps for some people, they need a different method, but if they understand that foundation, then they can figure out what works for them. And then you start looking at, your manifestations that you start looking for, at least for me, have gotten a lot different. So now a car is really no big deal. If I wanted a new car, I could have one very easily. I know that. So I don't really worry about getting a new car. If I want one, I'll get one. And if I want a new house, or I want more money, or whatever, all that stuff just comes to me much more easily. But now my manifestations are, I start thinking about, okay, what would be fun for me? Now I'm looking all about the fun. Like, I want to do something that's going to get me really pumped up. I want something that's not just a thing, but it's like an adventure, or maybe a business, or a job, or like a project, anything big enough that's going to absorb me and make me really have a great time. That's what I want now. And those are the things that I start looking for. And life is really fun when you start looking at that stuff. All the physical things, you're like, fine, I'm good with all that. And so I want my life to be exciting and fun every day. That's kind of my goal. And so what I do is I get myself into that idea and that feeling place of everything's fun and exciting. And then sure enough, the exciting, fun ideas come to me, and the exciting, fun opportunities show up. And so that's where I'm at manifesting now. And it's a great place to be. It's really awesome.
Like I said, and I mean, the physical manifestations, they're important. I'm not going to say that they're not. I just think it's interesting that at some point when we start getting that stuff, it's like, oh, it's not all about that. But yeah, I mean, if you're starving to death, I don't need to be talking to you about world peace. We need to talk about how do you get a meal? How do you get a shelter? How do you get a, and it can give us a lot of proof. I mean, when you manifest the perfect car, when you manifest the perfect house, when you manifest something that you gave a very specific flavor to, and it manifests just like that without you having to do anything, it gives us a lot more confidence. It gives us, because we have to have this proven to us. There is a certain amount of proof that we need. It can't just all be faith alone. We want the stuff, and we want the experiences, and we want the proof. And so I mean, I know when I found my car, the universe knew better what I wanted than I did. Because I'd forgotten about the Mustang, that I've always had a real place in my heart for the Mustang, convertible Mustang. And then convertible Mustang shows up. And, you know, and I'm like, I forgot how much I love you. Oh my God. You know, and I was like, oh, hells to the, yeah, of course it's a convertible, you know, because I just told the universe, just bring me the car that's going to make my heart sing. Like, I'm not sure which one, but I know it's going to be a convertible. And it did, you know, and that's how easy it can be. But the belief has to be there, you know, because if you're like, please, universe, please bring me something good, like it's not going to happen. If you're like, I shall have it. And it's like, the universe is like, here you go. And you're like, thank you, you know. And I love what you said about like, well, if I want a car, if I want money, if I want a house, like that's not a problem for me anymore, you know. And what a wonderful place to be, you know, in today's society where people are like, oh God, what's going to happen here? And oh God, what's going to happen here? You know, where you could be like, yeah, I'll be fine. If I need money, I'll manifest money. If I need a new car, if I need a new house, if I need it, I'll just manifest it, you know. And what a freedom to have, where you don't really have to worry about that survival stuff at all anymore, you know.
I do it all the time now, and I say it out loud to people I know who aren't into the law of attraction, because I don't know why, it's like a challenge to the universe or to myself or something, like say it out loud, and so I do. And so I'll decide something I want, very, very specific, and I'll say, and I won't say this is what I want, I say to them, this is what I'm gonna have. I'm going to have a this and this and this and this, and I'll have very specific things, and this is going to show up, and this is how it's going to be. And for instance, I had a tenant, I have a studio apartment that I was renting, and I told everyone, I want a tenant who pays every month and never lives here. A person who's just going to pay, never gives me any trouble, and is never here ever. And they're all like looking at me like, I told all my friends, I tell everyone, yep, I'm going to have it. This is what it's going to be. And I didn't advertise. Some guy comes to me and he's like, oh, I have a friend. I hear you have a studio apartment. I have a friend, and, you know, he needs a place and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, okay. He was there, I think in 2 years, I think he showed up like 3 times. 3 times. He showed up, paid every month. I never saw him. And I just laugh about it. And people go, I can't believe you got that. And I'm like, well, I said I was going to.
Yeah, that's how easy it can be. You decided, right? You decided. And that's the power.
Yeah, it's really like, if you fully believe that, if you get into that full place of completely knowing it's going to happen, it happens so fast and so easily. It's really amazing. It's
scary, right? Like, what the?
It's fun though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a roller coaster where you're like, oh, it's happening. Yay, you know? And so, yeah, and my friends just laugh now, because I'll just say something and I'll be like, oh, and here's what I'm going to have now, and this is going to happen. And they're like, and then now no one tries to argue with me or
because then you become the person, even if they can't believe it for themselves, they actually start to believe it for you, because they can't divide it. So they're like, oh, I can't do that. But Laurel, whatever she says she's going to have, she gets it. It's guaranteed. It always happens. Not for the rest of us, but she does, you know. And even though that's not yet them stepping into their belief, it's still opening up belief that it can happen for someone.
Right.
And then hopefully at one point it can happen for them as well, you know. But
well, that's the other thing you've taught me over time, is that you cannot control other people's reality. And so it's a hard lesson. I'm still learning. I don't always remember, but most of the time I'm not trying to teach anyone or convince them of anything. Most of the time I'm very good now, and I just stand where I am, which I know you've told me to do, and I've tried very hard, is just to stand in my own power. And if it convinces anybody, great. If it doesn't, well, that's their path, you know, and I have to let them be okay with that.
Yeah.
Hard sometimes, but that's what I have to do.